Travis with UtvWindowTint.com today, showing you how to tint your Can-Am Defender. Today we got a 24 Can-Am Defender. This thing's decked out, wheels, tires, the back rack, front bumper, front winch. It's got everything on it. The guy's going to add window tint. Originally, he ordered the window tint off our website, realized that we were a lot closer to him than he thought. He's actually camping in the next city over, so he dropped off his machine for us to tint today. So we're going to show you how to tint the machine, so when you buy a kit, you can also know. So what you're going to need to do the windows on this machine is first you're going to need to order our pre-cut tint kit. He chose Apex Ceramic. So with that, we've already cleaned the windows. This machine was mildly used, so all the gaskets in here were dirty. So the tint goes on the inside. So what I did is I scrubbed out the stuff with the Mr. Detail All Surface Cleaner in a brush. I scrubbed out those gaskets, wiped them down with a microfiber. That's going to make for a much cleaner install. So what I want to talk about today is the tools that you're going to need to do it. So if you order from us, these are the 3 tools that are included. They include a gasket shank to get below the gasket to fish the film in, a squeegee, and then another soft squeegee. Both of these squeegees are very handy. Some of the other things that you're going to need to tint this machine, or I would highly suggest, would be a pack of razor blades, or 5 single-edge razor blades, Dawn dish soap, and a blue scrubby. So on top of that, you're going to need a soapy water solution. So you're going to need a spray bottle. I would highly suggest maybe like a distilled water or purified water. Just make sure that the water source that you're getting your water from is clean and not full of debris, because that will end up in your film. So you need a couple drops of Dawn dish soap. Now I do have a video on my YouTube channel that talks about how much Dawn. A couple drops, depends on humidity, depends on where you're at. The hotter it is, the more humid, the more Dawn you'll need. So watch that video. I'm not going to go full dive into that today. So this customer opted for the Apex Ceramic, like I said, 35 on the sides and rear, and then 50% on the windshield. He did opt for a banner, but the more he thought about it, he's going to pass on that. He might install it himself later. So today, we're going to do all of that. I got the machine prepped by cleaning those gaskets. So on here, I scrubbed out the gaskets. I also took a nice microfiber and just cleaned the windows on all of these. I wanted to make this video short and sweet. Our videos tend to go a long time. So I cleaned all of this out. We'll still do most of the prep work, and then I washed the back window. So when I washed the back window, I took it out of the machine, which we do have a YouTube video on how to remove the Defender back windows. And then I actually hand scrubbed it like I was washing a car. I took a mitt, I sprayed soap onto the glass, and I lightly scrubbed it, all the gaskets, and made sure that was clean. I cleaned inside and out. You'll need to clean the outside of the glass and around the glass, so that way there's no dirt. You guys will use this as your peel board. I might show you that today on how to do that, but you want all this area clean. So we're going to dive in right now to the back window and teach you how to get your film installed. All right, so you guys would use a spray bottle with your soapy water. This is a keg. It's a pressurized keg we use as professional window tinters. It's just a soapy water solution. So now I got the tint on here, liner side towards me. So when I say that, the clear plastic part, when you buy the kits, they'll come pre-weeded, meaning they're going to just have the film you need to tint the glass, not the excess. Some of the other pre-cut factories or pre-cut online things will send you not weeded, and you have to fight. So I'm going to spray this with soapy water. You would typically probably want to use the outside of your back window as a peel board. We're going to use this today. We're kind of in a time crunch. The customer needs this back. He wants to use it. So what we're going to do is, now that the liner's towards me, I'm just going to kind of miss this. I'm going to peel this up, leaving the film to the glass, only lifting the liner, and I'm going to wet this. And when I wet it, I don't want to rinse the dirt in from above the glass. I only want to go halfway, and then I just want to simply put the liner back on the film just like that. So the trick here is you're just putting a little bit of soapy water between the film and glass, and you'll see why you're doing that. So I'm going to do the same thing over here, just lifting the liner, wetting my film. I want my film to have a nice layer of water, soapy water. Now I'm going to miss the outside of this. This technique is called the reverse roll. So I'm going to have the camera guy come around this way. And what is going to happen here is I'm going to actually roll this film onto itself. And I'm just going to roll it up tight. And this is really going to improve your guys' install experience. So you're going to do this for the back window and the windshield. And this is going to make your install 10 times easier. So now you just have to remember that this is the top edge right here. And the reason I can tell that is there's 3 notches. So there's the third, second center notch. So you just have to remember when you roll that this is your top edge. So I'm going to roll this up. And what's going to happen here, if you haven't already watched some of our videos, is the liner side's facing towards you guys as a camera right now. When I get this to a certain point, the liner is actually going to flop on here, thus exposing the sticky side of the film. So now we'll go install on here once we have our back window prepped. But now I'm safe to carry this. The liner's here, so it can't get dirty. So I've only introduced the liner side or the film side for a split second. So right now this is laid out just like this. We're going to set this somewhere where it's not going to come unrolled. And then we're going to take and prep our back glass. So for prepping our back glass, we need a towel and a razor blade. This is a brand new razor. And we just need to mist our glass with your soapy water. Now, I highly suggest washing this. When I wash this with the mitt, I use the mitt in here. I clean the gasket. If you don't do that, I would rinse this out like that because dirt could be sitting up here and now it's rinsed out in your film area. I'm very confident that the glass is clean on this because of how much I wash it. I actually used a foam cannon. So what we're going to do is we're just going to razor blade this glass with a brand new razor blade. And the idea here is you want to razor blade the whole glass. You want to make sure that any bonded contaminants are off the glass and that the glass is completely clean. So I've been tinting since probably 2008. So I am very quick at this. I don't expect you guys to be this fast. But we're just going to razor blade the whole glass. And once the whole glass is clean, if your machine's dirty or you didn't wash it, I would suggest doing that twice. I've already cleaned this glass, so I'm happy with this. I'm going to take this squeegee. I'm going to spray some soapy water on here. I'm going to take a squeegee, and now we're going to squeegee this off. I'll use the pink tool because this is what you guys would have in your kit. So you want your clean microfiber, and what you're going to do is you're going to squeegee around all these notches and start it from one end and work your way to the other, and then you're going to wipe off your blade. The point of wiping off your blade is to ensure that there's no contaminants on your blade that are going to be left on the glass. So I'm just doing passes left to right and wiping each time. And I'm kind of creating a wave. You want to do it on a horseshoe or something like this. You don't want the glass facing up towards the ceiling because contaminants from the ceiling could be falling and landing on your glass if it's completely flat. So now that I'm happy with the way this is, I'm just going to wipe this streak that's coming down. There could be contaminants in here. And I'm just going to wipe this edge and I'm going to wipe this edge. Ideally, I've pushed all my contaminants from this side to that side. So now I've wiped that off. So now I'm going to grab my film that's reverse rolled, remembering that this is the top edge. And I'm just going to give this one light mist down the center just to help me. But you've already sprayed and wet the film, so now I'm going to unroll this. And the only thing that you want it to touch, now the liner's towards the back, the only thing that you want the film to touch is the area on the glass that it's going to go. You don't want it to flop on the gaskets around it. Now there's a little bit of soapy water on here to help you shift your pattern, but if you got this right, you shouldn't have to shift much. So what you want to do is get this completely worked out, and it's a little tacky. You could have probably sprayed a little bit more soapy, but you just got to get the bond to break. So there. And now I'm just going to use my hand, and I'm just going to make sure I'm going to shift the film this way a little bit just because I'll be happier with it where it's over here. I just want to make sure that I got no light gaps anywhere. And I actually do have a light gap there, so I want to do that. Boom. So now I'm happy. I have no light gaps. I'm just going to mist the outside of this again. And you want to just kind of make sure that as you squeegee this out, you're not shifting your pattern. So you want to squeegee, and you kind of just want to lock it. So I'm doing center outwards, and I'm putting down an okay amount of pressure. You're going to want to squeegee this twice. So I'm going to do that. Boom. And we just want to lock this in. So I'm doing a little bit of overlapping passes where I'm covering 50-50 just to ensure I don't leave any soapy water left in the film. Now, because you did this as like almost a dry install where you didn't saturate the window, should be less to squeegee out. And because you have less to squeegee out, there should be less bubbles. You know, soapy, it will somewhat evaporate, but you want to extract as much water as possible. So I've got this all squeegeed out. I'm going to mist this again. And this is where I'm going to do my harder passes. I'm going to hold the glass, and now I'm just doing hard overlapping passes to ensure that I've extracted all the soapy water. So now I'm going to come out here. I'm going to do one pass out this way, squeegee down, and overlap. So wipe off our blade to make sure we didn't pick up any contaminants that are going to scratch our film. And that's how you reverse install a back window on a Can-Am. Now we'll move on to some of the quarter windows and then onto the doors. We'll show you a couple common mistakes. Trust me, if you're tinting one of these machines, you'll want to stay along and watch the common mistake. It'll save you a lot of frustration. So we'll clip to that next. All right, so this is a common mistake that gets made. So you unroll your film out of your box, you get it out, and you walk up to this window and you're looking at this rounded corner and you're looking at it, you're like, okay, cool. This is the way it needs to be. But it's actually short on this side, about an inch. So I get this phone call all the time. It's too long and it's an inch short. So what's actually happened is the liner's facing towards me like it's supposed to be. So that means the sticky part of the glue is facing towards me. What's actually happened is you've got this rotated and on the wrong side of the machine. So you're thinking because of this rounded corner that you're in the right spot. But actually, if we take this same piece of film, still liner side towards me, and walk to the other side of the machine, now this corner is up here, and this notch is down here where it needs to be. Now it's not an inch short. It's actually right where it needs to be. It's exactly the right length top to bottom, and it's the right length left to right. So don't make that mistake. I get that phone call 5 times a month, 6 times a month. That is super common. I've walked people through on FaceTime on how to fix this issue. Sometimes it's too late. They try to install it. So just be wise. You always want to make sure the liner side is facing towards you, which is the clear plastic, and that you square up your windows and you just check to make sure. These windows here are not the same side to side. So make sure that you have them right. There's actually a little bit of difference. This is a minor corner and this is a major corner. So you want to make sure that you have these on the right side also. They're not the same side to side. So you get on a 4-door machine, you get 2 of these for the left and 2 of these for the right. So just make sure that. We'll teach you how to install this now. All right, so I got liner side towards me on this quarter window. We're going to work on this window right here. And what I meant by a minor and a major is this is a major corner right here, and this is a minor corner. So if you actually look, you can totally tell minor, major. So you just want to line this up, liner sides towards you. So that means that the sticky part of the film is actually facing towards me right now. So we're going to actually use this window as our peel board. So I've already taken glass cleaner and I've already cleaned this window. So I'm just going to wet it. I'm going to stick this piece on right here. And I want the whole piece touching the glass. So I'm just going to squeegee this out with my black squeegee. And that's basically going to anchor this to the glass, which is going to make my life a lot easier. So now what's going to happen is we're actually going to use our yellow gasket tool and a fresh razor blade. So I'm going to grab a fresh razor blade. And what we want to do is we want to clean behind the gasket. So I already scrubbed the surface of the gasket, but we want to get behind there. So what we're going to do is we're going to stick this gasket tool up in here and we're going to spray soapy water. And that's going to allow the film install to be much easier. Plus it's going to work on rinsing any dirt out. So now with that being said, we're going to take our razor blade and I'm going to actually stick the razor blade up behind there. And the idea is to get any of that sand, dirt, debris, contaminants off the glass and make this job a super clean install. So I'm just going to razor blade the whole window. This window is very small, so it's not going to take me very long. And just for safety measures, because I really want this to turn out nice for the customer, and you guys want it to turn out nice for yourself, I'm just going to razor blade it again. Again, I'm going to stick this up behind here and just squeegee out all of this. So it's kind of like painting something. Window tint is all about the prep work. It's a lot of prep work with a little bit of install time. So the cleaner you get this, the better it's going to turn out. Now I'm going to use this install tool, the black and white one. I'm going to spray soapy water. I will need a towel for this. I'm going to grab a towel out of the back seat. So you're going to want a couple towels to do this. You want a towel to wipe off your door panel. I like the traditional microfibers. So you're just going to use this to wipe off your door. It is just soapy water, but at the end of the day, you do want to wipe it off. And then these are glass towels. So what I want to do is I want to put this up here, and I got it a good ways behind that gasket, and I want to squeegee that out. And I want to do the same on the side. I want to try to get any embedded contamination out, and I want to do that twice. Again, it's all about the prep work. So I'm going to put this behind here. This will actually loosen up the gasket a little bit and make it easier to install also. You forced a little bit of soapy water behind there. So now that I've done that, we're going to do this as a dry install. So we're going to only wet our film. So we want our whole film wet. And then we're just going to take and carry this. I like to do the top edge first. So we're going to flip this. And then we're going to land this onto the glass. And then we're going to simply walk that up behind that gasket just a little bit so there's no light gap. And then we're going to fold our film. And this is where that yellow gasket tool comes in handy. So you're just going to open up this gasket and fish the film behind that area. So these are a little on the more tricky side, but they're not terrible. If you do all the steps that we just talked about, you've got soapy water behind that gasket, and it'll be a much easier install. So it's just about finesse. If you got enough soapy water in your mix, this will shift, but you don't want too much that it shifts without you doing anything. So now that this is all positioned, I can actually, now it's kind of floating behind the gaskets. Just want to check all my angles around here, make sure I don't have any light gaps, and then we're just going to simply squeegee this out. I'm going to use my thumb at the top to kind of anchor the film to the glass, and that's going to tell me if the film's shifting. If you have too much soapy water, the film could potentially shift, and if it shifts, you could get a light gap somewhere that you might not see because you're focused on squeegeeing it out. So this window is all squeegeed. Again, you just want to kind of squeegee your border out, make sure you've extracted all the soapy water. Again, doing this as a dry install means you didn't oversaturate it. So at this point, we can go on to this quarter window. So this quarter window, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to mist this glass. We're going to put our quarter window on here. There's a little bit of excess film, so you could use your razor blade or a knife and trim this excess. Trim that excess. So there you go. Now we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to open up this gasket, and behind it I'm going to spray soapy water, and that's going to make it so that way the film slips in easier. And then I'm going to razor blade it. So I'm using the razor blade behind the gasket. And now that that's done, we'll do it again. So again, I'm going to mist this, get behind there, really open up that gasket with the razor blade. You're not cutting it, you're just simply scraping behind it. So we're done with that. Now I'm just going to take my blue microfiber. I'm just going to wipe off the door panel a little bit. I don't want to saturate this customer's machine. So we're going to take our pink tool on this window, and we're just going to mist some soapy water on here. Take our pink tool, and again, I'm going to force that behind the gasket to extract the water and dirt. And I'm going to squeegee all this down, and then I'm just going to squeegee out that way. So now that that's done, that soapy water is actually on the outside of the glass. So we are going to peel our liner, mist this, and I like to do the tippy point first on these windows. So the film's completely saturated. I'm going to grab it. Actually, I lied. I'm going to do this edge first. And I'm going to get this to walk behind that gasket. And then I'm just going to walk this forward. Now, when you walk this tippy point forward, you don't want it to flop and rub on anything that could potentially be dirty. It's the most delicate point. So now that this is landed, you can see I have a light gap here. I'm gonna actually just shift this around. And because of that soapy water, I can actually just move this and it's actually free floating. So now I'm gonna take my thumb, I'm gonna press here, and I can control where I'm at as far as light gap goes. But now I'm just gonna squeegee all of this out. So boom, I got that all squeegeed out. I don't have light gaps, and now I'm just gonna put decent pressure down and squeegee. So we've extracted all the water. I'm gonna wipe down my door panel again. This is all on the outside. And that is how you install the 2/4 windows on the front of a Can-Am. We're gonna move on to this front window right here. All right, so I know I got the right window on my peel board right there. The liner side's facing towards me on the peel board. We're going to use the yellow gasket tool to shove behind here. These gaskets on these Can-Ams can be tight. So this is an important step. What you want to do is you want to peel this gasket back and spray soapy water under there. I like to do that twice. These gaskets can be, like right here, I just caught a snag. These gaskets can be super inconsistent too, and they can be extremely frustrating. So doing this, I found that there's a felt gasket back here. You are opening up that gasket, allowing soapy water behind there, which is going to make your install easy. So now that I've done that on both the sides and the bottom, my window's all the way up, I'm going to simply razor blade the bottom 5 inches. Again, you've heard me say it already 10, 20, 30 times on this video. We're just going to simply try to get all the embedded contaminants off. So I'm using my razor blade behind this gasket. I'm using my razor blade behind this gasket. There is no need to take apart the door panels on these machines. I've had people call and say that they have. I don't think it's necessary. It's your choice. It probably would make you easier. I don't know how long it would take to take the door panels apart. This way works just well. So what we're going to do is the top edge of this could be containing dirt. So I want to mist this and I want to wipe this off. And if you look at my towel, that's the dirt from the top edge. So that's important because if you spray this, you could potentially rinse dirt down into your film area. So that's an important step that you don't want to skip to get a high quality job. So now we're just going to take and razor blade the window. So I've done this with you guys. I'm going to razor blade this window twice. You're almost kind of listening for that gritty noise that the razor blade's taking something off the glass. So we're going to razor blade it again. You won't go through terribly amount of soapy water during this process. If you guys are using a quart spray bottle, you might go through 1.5. It depends if you get a windshield. A windshield's going to consume a lot more water than obviously not doing one. So don't be alarmed if you're going through a lot. What we are going to do now is we're going to take this tool, the black and white tool. We're going to spray soapy water on the glass, and we're going to squeegee this top to bottom. I like to start in the center, and I like to go behind this gasket. That is an important step. And then I'm going to go from this way to the back and behind the gasket. Then I'm just going to push the rest of this down, and I'm wiping each time I pull my blade off the glass to ensure that there's no contaminants going back on. Now, normally I would have you guys put the film on the outside because you got your window down about 1 inch or 1.5 inches. You would take and put the film on the outside, and it'd be half on this window, half on that window, liner side towards you, and then you would anchor it with your pink card, and then you would peel the liner about 3/4 of the way and carry it in. We have a peel board. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wet my glass. This is the last time I'm going to wet it before my install. I'm going to rinse out this side edge, rinse out this side edge, and then I'm going to come over to my peel board, and I'm going to peel the liner down about halfway, completely wetting this. And then I'm going to carry this in. So I'm going to carry it in using both hands. I like to put my knee against the door. We're going to land this on the glass, kind of where it needs to go. And if you look, I'm an 1/8 inch gap. I'm going to slip that in there. And then I'm going to land this, and it creates a hump. So right here, I've created this hump. That hump will go away once you push behind the gaskets where you need to go. You can see that I'm kind of like shifting the film. I'm just going to line up my top edge, make it so I'm happy with my top edge. We want all these big waves in the film to be gone. So get my top edge where I'm happy with it. And then we're going to take our pink squeegee, wherever I set it, and we're going to squeegee out this film. So I'm going to use my thumb here, I'm going to anchor this, and I'm going to squeegee it out. So I just want to do overlapping passes just like we did on this back glass, and I want to extract all my water. So that's about the halfway mark of the window. I'm just going to do this again to make sure I've extracted all my water. And then we're actually going to go up with the window. So we're up. The liner is still on here protecting the film. So now that's up all the way. We're going to take our soapy water, and you'll need your yellow gasket tool at this point. You're going to lift this up. You're going to spray soapy water on your glass. And then you're going to peel the rest of this liner off. We're going to throw it on the ground because it doesn't matter anymore. And then we're going to wet this film. So at this point, we're peeled away. I just simply pulled this towards the center. It dropped it flat to the glass. And I'm going to do the same over here. So now, in essence, what we have is we have this little bit of a hump that needs to be fished below the gasket. So again, the yellow gasket tool, if you chose to buy our tools, which I highly suggest, the yellow gasket tool is going to be used to open up this area to fish the film down. So I'm using my thumb to kind of create that wave. And once I've created that wave, I can simply get this to go behind the gasket. So right now, currently, you have to be able to read your film. My film wants to go this way, but it's kind of wedged right there. And this is the inconsistencies of Can-Am gaskets that kind of suck. So I'm going to use my yellow gasket tool. I'm just going to run that down that side, and it's opened up that gasket to allow the film. So now my film's completely flat. Like if you look at it, I can almost squeegee it out with my hands. Again, I'm going to mist a little soapy water on here, and I'm going to use my pink install tool, and I'm just going to push this down. So now the film's completely laid. I've two-staged. I didn't have to take apart the door panel. And I got a perfectly clean, nice install. It wasn't terrible. These machines are a little more difficult to tint than the Polarises, but they're totally doable by yourself. Now at this point, you want to just squeegee out the whole window. I'm going to use this squeegee. You guys won't have the luxury of this, but this will just pass time faster. So I'm going to squeegee all of this window out. And then I'm going to take on the sides, I'm going to take this black squeegee that you guys get in the install tool, and I'm just going to squeegee out my sides just to ensure that there's no soapy water. And then I'm going to open up this bottom, and I'm going to squeegee out this bottom. So there we go. That's how you do a driver's front on these Can-Am Defenders. Let's move on to the passenger, or the driver, I'm sorry, passenger front. Let's move on to the passenger rear. All right.
All right, so we lost audio for that, so I'm just going to voice over it. What I'm doing is I'm taking the gasket shank and I'm spraying soapy water to loosen up that seal. I'm going to do that on the sides and bottom. And I just want to do this so that where there's soapy water in there and the film will slide in there easier as we are installing this rear window. So I'm going to do that twice. I'm going to spray the bottom 5 inches of the door or the window with our soapy water solution, and I'm going to razor blade that. I just want to wipe up our door panel so the customer doesn't get a soapy machine back. So I'm going to razor blade this with one of our single edge razor blades. Again, cleanliness is everything. We're going to razor blade this. We're going to do it again. This was a mildly dirty machine, so I just want to make sure that we are getting all the debris off the glass, any embedded contaminants off the glass. So now I'm just going to crank that window down. I'm going to go down about an inch, and I'm going to take my towel. I'm going to wipe that top edge, ensuring that there's no dirt on that top edge. We're about ready to install after we razor blade again, so I want to make sure that edge is clean. So I'm going to wet the glass. I'm going to razor blade down. And I want to make sure that my razor blade is getting behind those gaskets so that way there's no contaminants on the edge of our film once installed. So now that I got this razor bladed off, we're going to wet it again and we're going to razor again. Just again, making sure that everything that could potentially be on the glass is off. These machines are used in the dirt, the sand, everything. So we want to make sure that those are as clean as humanly possible. So at this point, we're going to take our black squeegee. We're going to wet the glass in our towel. And we're going to squeegee off the window, flushing all of that contaminants down to the bottom of the window. and I'm wiping my blade each time I do this. So I want to make sure that if my blade has anything on it, that it is wiped off. So now I'm going to wet the glass top to bottom, and I'm going to rinse out each edge. And what I mean by rinse out is if there's any contaminant on that edge, I want to make it rinse away. I'm going to peel my liner down halfway. Again, you would do this on the outside of the machine. I'm using that glass peel board. We're going to carry it in. We want the film to land on the glass and not touch anything else during this install. So I'm using the back of my hand to carry that film, and the sticky side is only touching the glass that I know is truthfully clean and uh, ready for the install, contaminant free. So I'm going to just kind of fish my film left to right, and then once I'm happy with how the film goes behind the gaskets, I want to make sure my film at the top is good. I want a really small light gap at the top. Once I'm happy with where it's sitting, I'm going to use my hand to anchor the film to the glass, and I'm going to squeegee out. And you only want to go down to the point where the liner is, otherwise you could potentially crease the film. So at this point, I'm going to squeegee out my sides with the black card just to extract any bit of water. And we're going to go up with the window. All right, now that the window's up, we still have that bottom 25% to do. So the liner's still on there, so I'm going to wet the glass, rinsing any dirt down, and then I'm going to peel my liner, and I'm going to wet my film. So now the trick here, once you got the film wet and you're ready to install, is you're going to fish it below the gasket. This is where your gasket tool will come in. So I create a little wave in the center of that film, and that wave, it needs to go below the gasket. So now I'm going to use my gasket shank, open up the gasket, and then use my hands to fish the film down below, and just kind of watching my sides. At points, you may need to use the gasket tool to open up the side gasket to allow the film to go down. And this can be a little tedious. Um, Once you get the hang of it, it's pretty easy. I would say dropping in that back half, the shortest part of the film, top to bottom, would be the easiest, and then working your way towards the front of the machine like I'm doing here. So you can see it's taking me a little bit, but it's just kind of reading the film and understanding where the film wants to go. So once you got the film in positioned, you're then going to squeegee it out. See, I'm struggling with this side here. So I'm just trying to get that film to go down. I can tell that the film wants to go down below that bottom gasket, but it's hung up on that front side of the window in those seals. See, I'm going to use my gasket tool to open that up, and that's going to make life a lot easier. You can see it just dropped into where it wanted to go. So now we're going to use our hands to rake out the film, and then we're going to use this pink squeegee to push that all down. That took a little longer than it normally did. The Can-Am machines typically have inconsistent gaskets, so one window on your machine may go really easy, and another window may not be easy at all. So I'm just going to wet the window again. I'm going to re-squeegee it out, trying to extract as much water as humanly possible. We want to have no bubbles in this window tint. So squeegee all of that out, and then just wipe our window and door panel. Check it from the outside to make sure we don't have any bubbles, anything that's going to dry that we're not going to be happy with. And that's an install on the passenger rear door of a Can-Am. Obviously do the same on the other side. Thank you for watching that video. If you need any help, feel free to reach out. My name's Travis. We're here to help at UtvWindowTint.com. We'll see you on the next video. Enjoy your tinted machine.